Just before I go on to my next question, we've got a friendly person in the chat here just saying hi. It's someone called Cluxar. It was awesome meeting you at London, Michael. Thanks for taking care of me. Really appreciate it. Never been welcomed like that before. And I think they asked about what's the best way to get in touch to apply for a job as a photographer over at Rogue Rect and London Ravens. I'm guessing you have a careers page on your websites.
Yeah, there is on the Rektglobal site. There is. It's like this guy. Like the best way to get like anywhere in esports is to like fight for it. Like literally fight your way in. Like you can't just like stand there and hope that something will pick you up. So this guy, he actually wanted to be our photographer for that event, but we'd already got one. But the way he wrote to me, I remember like people that do it the right way. And I got to the event, and I think the Paris owners were there, and they were like, "Oh, we got let down by our photographer." And I was like, "Actually, I know a guy. I think he's actually here." So I introduced him to them, and he got a job working for Paris for the weekend. So, so that's the way in.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Do you have any tips for? Yeah, I'm sure there's people watching this, and I'll do a little clip on our YouTube, maybe a 5-10 minute clip of advice for people looking for work in esports. We do a lot of content around this at the British Esports Association, but I think someone like yourself with that experience, Odee, I think people will look up to you. Any other tips you have, maybe for aspiring managers? Because setting up a team now is a lot harder, right, than it was when you set yours up.
I think everything's a lot harder now, purely because it's becoming... It's professional now, like fully professional, and there are like billionaires and investment groups now, so everything's a lot more professional and everything's done properly. So when we set up Dignitas, like it was like, okay, like we're a team now. Now what do we do? We compete. That's it. That's all we do. And when we got our first sponsor, we weren't even thinking about that. The sponsor came to us and said, "We want to give you 10 grand. Can we put a logo on your shirt?" And we were like, "You can give us 10 grand, but we don't have a shirt." So they made us some shirts. But advice, I think is so hard now. Like I think over the 21 years I've been doing this, I think it's just changed. Like at the beginning, it was like really you've got to volunteer. Like there is no money. And then when jobs actually started appearing, it still wasn't until like 2010 that staff were getting paid something. And even then, like from Dignitas, for example, like we just didn't have the money to pay like full-time salaries, like and play players. And where esports in the early days, the developers and the tournament organizers, they didn't pay, like you didn't get, if you qualified nowadays, they pay for you to go. Now, back then, we had to pay all the travel. Okay, we didn't have salaries, really, for the players, but then that came in and we were doing salaries and travel. It was really hard. Now, luckily, that's kind of readdressed. That's been rebalanced, I would say. And now, if you qualify for something, they'll pay for you to go. Yeah. But we were spending like a couple of million on like travel alone, and it was really hard. So a lot of volunteers, and I know the mousepad meme's still out there, which does my bloody head in because I haven't got any mouse pads. Can't give you any mouse pads, so don't bloody ask. But yeah, we had a lot of volunteers, and we had a system in Dig where, if you wrote something, you got points. If you got hits, you got points. You got enough points, you could get a jersey or a hoodie. Dig hoodie's pretty cool. Or a mouse pad, because we got them from our sponsors, so it made it easier for us to like give something back. And I'm still pretty proud of like how we did that, and like the amount of people that actually got experience from doing that with us, and actually went on to get full on jobs. Nowadays, like there's still that. I think the volunteer stuff is still there. They just have a posh name for it called interns now, and yeah, you've got to fight for it. Like you don't get nothing for free. You've just got to fight for everything in esports, and you've got to be noticed. So that's kind of my advice. It's pretty bland and pretty generic advice, but you've got to get noticed. So like I remember Cluxer, and I remember the name, but so like normally I wouldn't remember a name, but I remember him.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, it's good. It's good advice, Odee. And just on, I've got a comment from Elliot, who's my colleague at British Esports, British Esports as well, as a not-for-profit body, we're a bit different. We do have quite a lot of volunteers, and I'm very mindful of that as well, you know. But we do have some merch and things on the way, so hopefully we'll be able to say thank you. But we've had, you know, Alice Lehman, who's our schools and colleges liaison officer for the North. She started off as a volunteer for our student championships, and now she's full-time. So it is a good routine. You know, my colleague Elliot, he said in the chat, my opinion on Dignitas is the best years were during the StarCraft 2 release. Back in 2010, 2011, Dignitas was super feared during those years as they signed players that were so good, like Naniwa, Select, Apollo. That was the first time I really started supporting Dig. They were just phenomenal to watch. And you did, you know, you always go for those best, don't you? I know it sounds obvious, but
we had a plan for StarCraft 2 because we kind of missed Brood War and we really missed Counter-Strike, although we had Counter-Strike in 2008, 2009, because the Birmingham Salvo team were Dignitas. When CGS died, I signed them back, but they were like top 10 in the world CSGO. And there was always a joke like the UK team, the best they've ever done at ESWC was coming ninth, and that was my team, the Rattlesnake. But we had a plan for StarCraft 2 that we wanted to be up there. It was our chance to like get in with the big boys and and actually expand to America. And that's kind of the time League of Legends came along and started getting big. So our plan was like, okay, StarCraft 2 and League of Legends, let's get an international lineup this time. So we had a list of about 50 players that we wanted to sign, possibility of signing. We had it for like a year before StarCraft 2 release. And we were watching all these players, what they were doing. So Select, for example, was double world champion in Age of Empires. Pretty sure I got that right at World Cyber Games. And we knew he was going to play StarCraft 2. Somebody told us. Apollo actually played for us prior to StarCraft because he was Command & Conquer World Champion.
Right.
And then one day he just said to me, like, Odee, StarCraft 2's coming. I want to be a commentator. Like, how can you help me, like, do this? And he said, like, I want to go to Korea and, like, he gave me a whole plan. And I went to Intel and Alienware and they helped us get a few grand together to give to Sean to bugger off, learn how to be a commentator, he met like Artos. I think Artos actually put him up when he went and like helped him. But that set Sean's career off, and look where he is now. So he's still in esports looking for ESL. And Select was our number one target. So we signed Select. Naniwa, he wasn't a target at all. He just came along, and he's one of the hardest players I've ever had to manage. And I've actually spoken to him. It was last year, and he said to me, like, it was a nightmare, wasn't it? I'm like, yeah, you were an absolute nightmare. But that's where like the top players are normally. Like they're so single-minded in what they want to do. Like me, when I was a player, I wanted to be the best and get out of my way. And if you're in my way, I'm going to knock you out of the way to be the best. So yeah, the StarCraft team, there was some good times. Like, we did some really good content around them as well. And that really exploded us globally. So then we started hitting US budgets and global budgets, and we started growing. It was good.
On the note of pro players, Odee, you know, you've said you've worked with over 1,000 in your career, and I've heard from a few over the years that as a manager, you've always been fair but had high expectations. And is that fair to say? And what do you look for in a pro player? Because I remember talking to you once before. You look at, you know, players that can keep their calm when they're under pressure. They don't twitch at all. You know, me, if I'm playing a League of Legends ranked game, I can get a bit nervous, you know?
Well, we've always, like, what I look for is basically a player that's literally has that, the motivation that I had. And it's like a single-minded, selfish desire to win at all costs. That's what I look for. It's really that simple. Everything else you have to mold. So everybody's different. You have to like work out how players tick. Some players are just easy. They don't get stressed. They just play. They win because they're cool. Some players get stressed. They'll be shouting at the screen. They'll be shouting all sorts of stuff at the screen. You have to teach them how to control themselves. But even when I play now, I resort to how I used to be before I was playing semi-professionally. And yeah, you watch me stream now, I'll be shouting and swearing my head off. But I like players that have passion and want to win. If you lose a tournament at a pro level and you're not happy, something's wrong. It really is.
Yeah, 100%. It's similar to football, isn't it? You hear similar things there as well. Managers that see their players, and you know, fans go after it. We're both Arsenal fans, by the way, for people in the chat watching. You know, Arsenal players get it sometimes. I remember Andre Santos, a not very good left back we had years ago, who swapped his shirts with Van Persie after a game, I think, when Van Persie was at Man U, and he was all laughing and joking. It was half-time and we were like 2-0 down or 3-0 down. The fans lampooned him. They really went after him. It's similar in esports, right? You need that winning mentality. That's a warning sign when you see something like that.
Yeah, and especially with team games as well, you've got to get... teams that are successful have one goal, basically, and that's to win. And then it's how you fit the personalities around practice and in and out of game. Everything, it all clicks. So when you run teams like I have and do now, you have to work out what's going on inside the players' heads. And we nowadays, we for Rogue, for example, we have a really good. I'm not sure what he's. Psychologist, he's a sports psychologist, and the stuff that he's done. Now I've come back into it, and the planning, for example, for the second split, which starts next week or this week, 25th, something like that. The planning and the personal development of players, it's a whole another level compared to StarCraft 10 years ago. Then it was just calm down. So when I did CGS, I'm standing there on stage I've got Bazza, and Bazza was a real character to manage because all he wanted to do was go clubbing. So when he was on stage, I'd just lean over and if he'd go 1-0 down, I'm like, Bazza, see that goal, the white thing? Stick the ball in the bloody goal, mate. And he'd start laughing. And it's man management, and that's a real massive thing that I have always been. A fan of from when I played sport before I got injured. Man management is absolutely key. So now part of my role is to help our coaches and our sports psychologists, and we'll get more of them, and we'll get outside help, and we're actually man management to actually sport, just like real sport. The thing is, most of the players have never had this done to them before, so they don't really know what's going on. So it's very early days of that kind of stuff right now, even though we're 20 years in.